Good evening. A fire is still raging tonight at one of Britain's biggest oil depots. Millions of gallons of fuel were set ablaze by a series of massive explosions at the plant in Hertfordshire this morning. 43 people were injured, 2 seriously, as the blast shook homes for miles around. Police don't yet know what caused the accident, but believe it was an accident. The first explosion happened just after 6 o'clock this morning at the Buncefield Oil Depot in Hemel Hempstead. Satellite pictures show the smoke from the fire spread over hundreds of square miles. First tonight, our special correspondent Gavin Hewitt, who's at the scene now. Gavin.
For 18 hours, this fire has been burning, and tonight it continues to burn fiercely. There are 150 firefighters on the site. They haven't yet begun to control the blaze. They're expected to do that in the next few hours or possibly tomorrow morning. And whenever they do it, it's going to be a very, very difficult task. It was still dark when one of Britain's largest fuel depots exploded. People living nearly 100 miles away from Hemel Hempstead reported hearing the blast. Dense, oily fireballs billowed into the night sky. There were suspicions this might have been some kind of attack, but police are almost certain this was a very serious industrial accident. A local CCTV camera caught the moment Buncefield Oil Terminal exploded. Among those living close by was Ian Stowe.
I was absolutely jolted right across my bed. It for all the world felt as if I'd been hit by a truck. And what had clearly happened was that the bedroom windows, including their frames, had been blown right in at some huge force and knocked me across the bed and covered me with bits of wood and glass and so on.
The oil depot is on an industrial estate. Ceilings partly collapsed, and in some offices the wall was pitted with glass fragments. Some distance from the fire, computers were blown across desks. A worker inside here later described what happened to him.
I sat down and all of a sudden there was a huge orange light and a massive explosion which blew the doors through and knocked me off my chair. The ceiling fell in. I was aware of the fact that shards of glass and bits of metal were flying past me as it pushed me across towards the wall.
Houses also were damaged. This was the ceiling of Mike Johnson's property, 3 miles from the depot.
Heard this huge rumble first, so the whole thing was just shaking, the whole house was shaking. That was for quite a few seconds before there was this boom.
And this is what happened to the front window of a nearby bakery.
The house was exploding. It just seemed like it was inside the house. It was just so loud. It was just phenomenal.
It was horrendous. It was really frightening. It actually shook the house. We thought, first of all, I thought there was an explosion downstairs, and I thought, no, we're still here. Maybe next door had gone up because it was like nobody there at the moment, and it was horrendous.
The house literally tremoured, so obviously with the concern got up, went downstairs, and our patio doors had actually been blown off the hinges.
I got up and I had a look out the window because there was alarms going off all over the place. Next thing I could see these flames just on the horizon over there, and they were monstrous. They were going up 400 or 500 feet in the air.
With a plume of dark, acrid smoke drifting across parts of the town, police wore face masks and over 2,000 residents were evacuated. Seeing just how immense these flames are, it is surprising that there weren't more casualties. But one of the reasons for that is that this fire started at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning when there weren't many people around.
It looks as if we've got off a lot more light than you might expect in an explosion of this size. The fact that it occurred at the time it did was probably the saving grace there.
Looking down at the scale of this, there were incredibly fewer than 45 injuries, and most of those were minor, and just 2 people remain in hospital. Even so, for the emergency services, this was a major challenge.
This is possibly the largest incident of this kind in peacetime Europe, so it just puts some perspective on what we're dealing with.
And this was the M1 today, eerily quiet with long stretches closed to traffic as smoke drifted across the carriageways. Some flights in and out of Heathrow were also disrupted. This was the scene tonight close to the depot. The fire is being allowed to burn. Sometime soon, 150 firefighters will attack the blaze, hoping to use 25,000 litres of foam a minute in a bid to blanket the fire. Investigators also are standing by to discover what caused one of the most severe blazes seen in this country. There is one bit of good news tonight. The M1 in Hertfordshire in both directions has reopened. And one thing I want to underline from having spoken to police officers and fire officers here today, they believe, considering everything, this has been a very, very lucky community. Darren.
Gavin, thank you for that.